If this deal passes, it will leave New Jerseyans paying more, far more, for their health care. Senator Cortez Masto, useless, from Nevada. Dick Durbin, retiring. Maggie Hassan, Tim Kaine, Angus King, Jackie Rosen, Jean Shaheen, retiring.
Fight. They are fighting. Prop 50 is a fight. I don't consider what we did for these kinds of Democrats. Does that make sense?
Hello, everyone. Sunday night, I wanted to rest, I wanted to sleep, but of course, Democratic leadership and their utter fecklessness, spinelessness, and uselessness have decided to keep me up with some righteous rage, because it's one of those situations where you think maybe, just maybe, this time the leopard will change its spots. And I was waiting to see how long it would take for the Democratic leadership to squander the blue tsunami that happened just a couple of days ago that gave them a double-digit victory in Virginia, where every county went blue, even though they're not blue, but lean blue, gave them the trifecta, gave them the governorship, gave them lieutenant governor, gave them attorney general. You got Mickey Sherrill, the centrist even, who became the New Jersey governor. You also had them retaining the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. You had Zohran Mamdani becoming the first Muslim Democratic Socialist mayor of New York. And the Democrats said, hold my Diet Coke. You know what? This is the largest shutdown caused by Republican extremists. They want to inflict pain. And the word that Russell Vought used, who's the co-author of Project 2025, a white Christian nationalist, the head of the office of OMB, who's also co-author of Project 2025, he said he wants to inflict trauma on government employees. His words, not mine. And Republicans are now squirming a bit. Even Trump is feeling the pressure. A majority of Americans blame Republicans for the shutdown. A majority of Americans blame Republicans for the terrible economy. Donald Trump is negative double digits on the economy, on tariffs, on jobs. He's negative double digits. What used to be his strongest issue, immigration. And furthermore, you finally see some cracks within the Republican Party. Marjorie Taylor Greene, Thomas Massie. Marjorie Taylor Greene blames and has blamed who? Mike Johnson for the shutdown. She's talking about the economy and how her constituents are hurting, her family members are hurting. And furthermore, she's gone on The View and CNN and talked about, we need to work on the economy. And furthermore, we need to release the Epstein files and we have to be America first. And you see Nick Fuentes versus Project 2025 Heritage Foundation's, Kevin Roberts and Tucker Carlson, and also versus Ben Shapiro. And there's fractures. And you're sitting there thinking to yourself, maybe this time, the Democratic establishment, which, by the way, threw everything and billionaire money and AIPAC and Bill Clinton against Mamdani, surely they will learn. But of course, folks, leopards don't change their spots. And here we are. And we have 8 Democrats, for those who haven't followed the news, 7 Democrats and independent Angus King, who decided, you know what? Let's go against the base, which is riled up, the base that came out last month, in the sense that not necessarily the Democratic base, but the majority for the No Kings rally, the largest single day protest in American history. 7 to 8 million people came out. Let's go against the blue tsunami that happened last week. Let's go against our own colleagues, our own friggin' Democratic colleagues, and even the centrists. For example, let me give you the centrist New Jersey Governor Mickey Sherrill, because I know all these centrists are always blaming me. Waj, you're just a flaming leftist progressive. I'm going to tell you what she wrote. This is Governor-elect Mickey Sherrill released the following statement, slamming the Senate's proposed shutdown deal. Quote, I ran for office to deliver for New Jerseyans, even in the face of Washington leadership that keeps failing people. And last week, we won with a broad coalition after laying out a plan that takes bold action on costs, despite political pressure and people saying it couldn't be done. Voters made it clear the American people want leadership with a backbone, and at a critical moment when they need leaders to stay strong under pressure. The Senate is on the brink of caving on a bill that the American people can't afford. Make no mistake, If this deal passes, it will leave New Jerseyans paying more, far more for their health care when they're already paying more and more for everything. Making this deal is malpractice. We have more than 9 million people in New Jersey who are counting on us to fight for them. And instead, Washington is putting them in harm's way. Not on my watch. Not Washington, the centrists. You know, the same centrist who completely bulldozed President Biden's ambitious Build Back Better plan? It was the progressives who held the line. It was freaking Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema who went along with Republicans and tanked it. And what is holding the line? Hey, you got them on the ropes. They just got a shellacking. And in their cruelty, the Republicans do not want to extend the Obamacare subsidies. As a result, healthcare premiums will double, sometimes triple. So for 40 days, we've got them in a headlock. All right, we're going mano a mano. You got them on the ropes. Friggin' cave, Republicans. You see the writing on the wall. You got Marjorie Taylor Greene coming up, big Mike Johnson, healthcare increasingly now again back as a top 3 issue. People are like, holy shit, double and triple my premiums in addition to rising meat prices, grocery costs, rising electricity, which has risen by 11%. The 1% have as much wealth as the middle class. The billionaires have made more billions. Donald Trump is hosting a Great Gatsby Roaring 20s party as friggin' federal workers here are at food banks. Holy crap. My God, this is absurd. More and more of them are waking up. And what happens? These 8, none of them are up for reelection. None of them are up for reelection. 2 of them are retiring. Let's name these mother effers. Senator Cortez Masto, useless from Nevada. Dick Durbin, retiring. Maggie Hassan, Tim Kaine, Angus King, Jackie Rosen, Jean Shaheen, retiring. They said, you know what, Chuck Schumer? We'll help you out. And if you think Chuck Schumer, the Senate leader, has no idea what's happening, then I don't know. I have to sell you a bag of lemons for $10,000. Okay. Of course, Schumer knows what's happening, even though Schumer didn't vote for it. But if Schumer doesn't know what's happening, if they went around Schumer and did it, it's even more of a glaring indictment on his failed leadership. He's already failed. The Democratic Party has its lowest favorability rating since 1994. And then they threw their own base and their own colleagues under the bus. You got Bernie Sanders coming out. You guys, like I just read you the exact direct quote from Mickey Sherrill. You got Mallory McMorrow, who's running in the swing state of Michigan, coming out for this, right? Of course, Schumer orchestrated. I just saw a comment. How can he not know? And if he doesn't know, if that's what he's saying, they went behind my back and did it, then you clearly are a failed leader who cannot count the votes and keep your party in line. Either way, it is an indictment on Chuck Schumer, who has like one of the lowest favorability ratings that he's ever received. I think he's below, what is he, like 13% favorability ratings, right? You had them on the ropes. So I'm sitting there thinking to myself, well, why would they do this? Why would they do this? And I thought about it. And, maybe because I got the gray hair and maybe because I'm cynical. I have heard from Democrats and Republicans repeatedly that the number one problem in politics is corporate money. I've heard from elected officials, both in the House and the Senate, man, you have no idea how much time we spend on the phones trying to get money, listening to donors. Stick with me for a second. This is a Republican engineered arson fire. The arsonists have now trying to take credit for putting out the fire, even though they're the ones burning everything down. Furthermore, realizing that Democrats are weak, feckless, ruled by centrists, Sean Duffy, yes, that of the real world, that Sean Duffy, complete incompetent moron who's now the Secretary of Transportation, also heading NASA. This is what he said. I just want you all to follow this because I've been paying attention to this for a while. More than 10,000 flights were delayed in the worst day of disruption since the shutdown. More than 2,800 flights were canceled Sunday, while Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy said the shutdown impact on airports is, quote, only going to get worse. Specifically, he said that he warned that it will trickle. I got the quote. 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, you're going to see air travel being reduced to a trickle, Duffy told a CNN State of the Union. Asked how many Americans might not be able to return home to their families on Thanksgiving, Duffy said, quote, the number is going to be substantial. This is from the Washington Post. The disruption comes after an emergency order by the FAA reduced the number of flights to cut strain on the country's air traffic controllers, most of whom are working mandatory overtime 6 days a week during the shutdown without pay. Some controllers are choosing to retire, and others are looking for other ways to make ends meet. By Tuesday, a 6% reduction in flights is expected at dozens of airports. Quote, we have controllers who, again, are making decisions to feed their families, Duffy said. I want them to come to work. The problem is they're confronted with real economic problems. Who created the problems? Who created the shutdown? Who is not paying them? Who is not voting to extend Obamacare subsidies that will help all Americans, even in the Rust Belt? Who? Republicans. Now, check this out. The Democrats said, oh, you know what? We got assurances. We got assurances that, we're going to open up the government and we're going to get some reinstatement. And these poor American government workers, I'm here in Virginia, folks. You don't got to tell me. I got friends. I know how hard people have been hit. I have friends who are in the government. I mean, it's tough. It is tough. 40 days without pay. Who threatened not to even give them back pay last week? Donald Trump. All right. So they said, oh, no. And this is why I called it the inshallah. Just, hey, we talked to them. We're going to reopen the government. We have to be responsible. We're the responsible party. So many people are in pain and they're going to get hurt. And our constituents just can't take it anymore. And now's the time to reopen the government and to be, civil and decent and do the right thing and the responsible thing. And guess what? We talked to Senator Thune and Republicans and, they agree with us. And when it comes to the main reason why we engaged in this bold strategy to force the Republicans, who, by the way, the majority blame for the shutdown, who just got a shellacking, who control the House, the White House, the Senate, and the Supreme Court. The main reason we did this is we put them in a vice and say, mother effer, tap out, you better extend the Obamacare subsidies. Folks, we don't worry about that. The main thing that we wanted from this hardcore, if you will, battle of the wits, this vice we put ourselves in, right? Squeezing them was to get the Obamacare extensions that will, of course, protect the doubling, near tripling of healthcare premiums that Americans will have to pay, which, by the way, they can't afford. And on top of that, the reason why they can't afford it because essentially we're in a recession right now. The economy is in shit. The stupid trade war. Who did the trade war? Donald Trump. Tariffs are what? Taxes. Paid by who? Us. Meat prices, sky high. Electricity prices, sky high, right? Because Donald Trump is gutting and attacking clean energy to help his mother effing lobbyist friends in the coal industry because we're not going to have heat, but we're all going to sleep next to a effing piece of lump of coal as we shiver with our kids, right? Climate change is a hoax, right? So let's attack clean energy, which actually reduces the price of electricity, increases better jobs. Let's go all in on coal, right? So electricity's gone up, meat's gone up, grocery prices have gone up, all the gains from inflation gone, income gains gone, job contractions. You've seen the job numbers recently, disastrous. Private sector isn't hiring, right? As all this shit's happening, surely Jim Thune and the Republicans said, okay, you 8 brave centrists, fine. We're going to extend the Obamacare subsidies. Nope. We got an inshallah. Inshallah, maybe. Well, inshallah. Well, we'll vote on it. Sure. We'll vote on that. Inshallah. And for those who don't know what inshallah means God wills it or God willing. Now, inshallah, if I may, as your resident friendly Muslim, it's like the amazing Arabic forget about it. If you're Italian, forget about it depending on the context, depending on how someone says it, can mean anything. So, for example, you're a single man. You're out with your boys. You see a pretty girl. You go talk to the girl and you say, "Hey, here's my number. So you'll call me, right?" And she goes, "Yeah, inshallah." Translation: I'm never gonna call you. You're a freak. You go to your father. You're 8 years old. You want to go to Toys R Us. Baba, we're gonna go to Toys R Us later tonight. Yeah, inshallah. We're not going to Toys R Us. I'm exhausted, right? That's the type of inshallah that the Republicans gave these 8 centrist Democrats. Well, seven centrist Democrats and an Angus King, right? So you got essentially nothing. The main thing that you wanted, you didn't get. All right. You got an inshallah. Sure, we'll talk about it. All right. Now the government hopefully will reopen. It'll be funded till what? Late January. Okay. And the Republicans are going to do the right thing, and they're not going to gut the government agencies, right? Okay. So I was thinking there. Okay, why did they do this now? It's not like people aren't suffering. It's not like jobs aren't being lost. It's not like they're like these stupid trade wars. It's not like there's tariffs. Why would they do this? Why would they do this? So I went back to the money. And I was thinking about the airline industry, and I'm like, the airline industry. Who gets hurt the most with these government shutdowns during the most busy travel season coming up in November and December, where Sean Duffy is warning slash threatening, much like they do like mobsters, hey, we could do this the hard way or the easy way. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. The airline's going to trickle. It's going to trickle down. You don't want that, do you? And I thought, let me check it out. But before I could check out the numbers, thankfully, someone, Most Muscle, sent me a list, thanks to Open Secrets. All the seven plus Angus King, they received money from the American Airlines PAC. Yep, every single one of them. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, I bet you, before I said this, I posted on Blue Sky, I bet you the airline lobbyists worked overtime. I bet you they put the pressure because, folks, the airline industry has gone bailed out again and again and again. And with the bailout money, they made record profits and given us shittier and shittier service. Just check it out. Do a little bit of research in these airline industries, all Trumpers. Instead of putting that money into, better airline infrastructure and reducing the prices, nope, they got more and more and more money. They keep getting bailed and bailed and bailed out. And then Sean Duffy, much like Brendan Carr, he did it in a more subtle way. Brendan Carr, the head of FCC, remember, about a month and a half ago, he went on Benny Johnson's podcast and he said we could do this the easy way or the hard way, ABC and Sinclair, when it comes to Jimmy Kimmel. That day, ABC caved. That day, Sinclair caved. Y'all remember that? So this is Sean Duffy coming out and saying, listen, I I don't know why this is happening, but these airline controllers, they're retiring and they're not showing up to work and these tough economic problems. I wonder who caused them. I wonder. I wonder. And I believe, of course, I don't know, but I'm waiting to see some reporting. But if I had to guess, the airline lobbyists picked up the phone and they worked. They worked the senators who they give money to, and they said, hey, 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 you want to travel? Hey, 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 I know you want to go back home. Hey, 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 I know you got vacation plans. Hey, hey, remember we gave you money? Come on now, do the right thing. And so now you got these 8 folks. I want to repeat it. They went against the base. The base says cave. The base said don't cave. The base said do not cave. Just check it out. Check out the sentiment right now on social media. That's what we have. I'm really curious to see the polls, but it's overwhelming. What do you all think? Do you think the base said cave? Nah, the base said, okay, we've gone this far. We're hurting. But you know what? These Obamacare subsidies, man, we will die without them. You have to extend these subsidies. They will double or triple. Okay. The base said don't cave. You just had a blue tsunami. Everyone's blaming Donald Trump. His approval rating is 35 to 37. Even Marjorie Taylor Greene is flipping on him. Okay. They caved. They caved and went against their own Democratic colleagues. You got Mallory McMorrow, who's moving a little bit more and more to the left when she realizes, oh shit, the base is really pissed off. Remember, she was kind of on the fence about AIPAC, and now she's kind of grudgingly against AIPAC. Even Seth Moulton, right, says I won't take AIPAC money. That's because the base has shifted. So even Mickey Sherrill, for those who are joining us late, that centrist from New Jersey, she's against this shutdown, right? So you got the majority of Americans blaming Republicans for the shutdown. You got a majority of Americans who want an extension on the government subsidy, Obamacare subsidies. You got a majority of your Democratic colleagues who said don't cave. And you just got a blue tsunami, and you had the No Kings rally, and they still caved. Now, I was told by some of my moderate friends, oh, there's a strategy at play. Oh, they had to be responsible. Oh, don't worry. I trust Tim Kaine and these others. They won't let us down. And I say, why? Why do you trust these elected officials? I'm old enough to remember less than a year ago, after Donald Trump won, Democrats spent millions of dollars trying to find the liberal Joe Rogan. Y'all remember that? Well, the universe gave him Zohran Mamdani for free. What did they do with Zohran Mamdani? To this day, Chuck Schumer hasn't endorsed him and embraced him. Hold on, let me invite Allison Gill. She said she wants to join. When asked just a couple of days ago if Zohran Mamdani represents the future of the Democratic Party, Hakeem Jeffries says he represents part of the future. He didn't say that. He just said no. Kathy Hochul, a couple of days ago, governor, when she was pressed on like going tougher against the oligarchy and the billionaires, what did she say? I don't like being pressured. Meh. All right. What did they do when it came to immigrants? They threw immigrants under the bus. I want to remind you all, Democrats voted for the Lake and Riley Act. Without Democratic votes in the House and Senate, Lake and Riley Act wouldn't have passed, which goes against undocumented immigrants. I want to remind you all, that Governor Newsom, when he had his podcast, right? His podcast, who did he invite? Who was his first guest? Steve Bannon. Who was his second guest? Charlie Kirk. What did Gavin Newsom do? Threw the woke, specifically the transgender community, under the bus to the point where the right wing said, oh my God, we got Gavin Newsom to shift to the right. All right. These are elected officials. They are feckless and they're weak. They even censured, if I recall correctly, 10 Democrats censured Al Green. Remember that first, like second month of the Trump administration, he had that state of the whatever bullshit unit it was, and Al Green stood up with his cane and started talking about, protecting Medicaid and Social Security. Remember they kicked him out? You all remember that? 10 Democrats agreed with Republicans to censure them. This is the Democratic Party. Hold on. Give me a second. Allison said, can I join you? Y'all with me? All right. So, folks, now I want I want to flip it for a second. When it came to Mahmoud Khalil, when it came to Rameza Ostrich, when it came to these pro-Palestinian activists, um, they threw them under the bus, ignored them, right? Because the base, we can't fight, we can't be bold. But the base was saying, no, fight for them. Now I want to remind you what happened when some people actually fought, because I keep receipts. Maryland here. Senator Van Hollen was the only senator. He went all the way to El Salvador after 200 plus men, brown men, were kidnapped and sent to die in a prison. And he said, Kilmar Abrego Garcia is a constituent. I want proof of life. You all remember this? He said, I ain't going to leave El Salvador until you show me proof of life. He was finally given proof of life. Kilmar Abrego Garcia was in the news. As a result of him being in the news, the poll numbers came out. Donald Trump was negative 19 on the detention of Kilmar Abrego Garcia. All right. Eventually, then pressure was put on the fact that all these men got kidnapped. And then after Chris Van Hollen went, you had a whole bunch of, I think less than a dozen House Democrats and Democratic senators go to Louisville during in the detention and talk about Mahmoud Khalil and Rumeysa Öztürk. Remember Rumeysa Öztürk, the 30-year-old Turkish grad student who was literally abducted in broad daylight in the middle of the street, going to an iftar by masked armed ICE agents. Her crime was writing an op-ed. Then that started getting in the news. More traction, more pressure. Mahmoud Khalil gets released. Rumeysa Öztürk eventually gets released. I'll give you Israel, for example. We kept saying, put pressure, put pressure, put pressure. All these corporate Dems, like, no, shut up, shut your mouth. No one cares about it. Pressure, pressure, pressure. Bills. Now you got Seth Moulton, of all people, saying, I ain't taking the AIPAC money publicly. You got Ro Khanna openly saying it. You got a majority of Dem senators for the first time in my life voting to stop sending arms to Israel for their genocide and occupation. That's what pressure does, okay? So you just had to have the Democrats hold the line. You just had to have the Democrats hold the line. And yet, again, these centrists threw everybody under the bus. The first time, a couple of months ago, I want you all to remember when it came to the continuing resolution. Chuck Schumer said, I'm going to hold the line, right? The entire Democratic base, you all remember this? Keep the receipts. They said, hold the line, hold the line, hold the line. Last second, he does a complete 180, throws them all under the bus, gets like, I think now that he said he's in it, he got like a whole bunch of senators, and then they went, I think, got a total of 10 once it seemed the dam broke. And then he threw the entire Democratic House under the bus and voted for Donald Trump. Now, it was on a promise. We have to be responsible. What did the Trump administration do, right? Gutted Department of Education, gutted Health and Human Services, literally shut it down, stole all our information from Doge. And now, just to show you the good faith of the Republicans and Donald Trump, I'm going to read to you another Washington Post article. Trump administration orders states to pause paying full SNAP benefits, even though two judges said pay the full SNAP benefits. You have the money, pay it. You have the money. 40 plus million Americans are at risk of losing SNAP. And then they said, okay, I'll do partial. And then he said, nope, I'm not going to do that. So this is the Republican Party that you are dealing with. They are extremists. They are freaks. They do not care about anything. You cannot use the old system of civility and negotiation. It doesn't work like that. You useless pieces of shit, centrist and good for nothing, spineless assholes. You are not built for this Fight, you are not made for this moment. I rarely swear. What more do you all need to see? And then people say, no, centrism is the way. And I say, have you paid attention? Have you paid attention to the last 10 years? Who's the president of the United States of America? Donald Trump. A rapist, a criminal, a fraudster, a man who incited a violent insurrection, a man who literally got $300 million from Elon Musk. Elon Musk with Doge, God knows what they stole from us. I know people don't talk about it anymore, but Doge is still there. And now they've gutted the Department of Education, gutted USAID, renamed Kennedy Center. Sorry, Allison, I'm in a rant. I'll finish it in a second. And this is who you're going to negotiate with. This is the Republican Party that you think will honor your inshallah handshake and vote to extend the Obamacare subsidies. I have Allison Gill on. It's about 1 o'clock my time. I think it's about 10 o'clock her time. Allison, just to recap my rant, I was talking about the uselessness, fecklessness of these 8 centrist Democrats. I was saying, and I don't know your opinion on this, so I should let you know where I am, and I want to hear from you. Disagree, please, if you will. I believe the reason why they caved is the airline lobbyists rang the phones, put the pressure. I shared the numbers. Open Secrets says that every single one of them, Cortez, Mosto, Durbin, Hassan, Kane, King, Rosen, Shaheen, all got paid, but from the airline pack. The busiest travel schedule is happening. Airline industry has Senate, House in a lockdown. They keep getting bailouts. The money trickles up to the shareholders. None of it trickles down to, cheaper flights or better airplanes. These 8, 7 Democrats, 1 independent, are all millionaires. 2 of them are retiring. The other 5 are not running for re-election. And Sean Duffy essentially came out like Luca Brasi and said, airline traffic's going to trickle down. It's tough. I don't know why. It's economic hardship. I don't know. I don't know who did this. I know it's going to be tough. So I'm thinking to myself, why now? Right after a tsunami, right after no King rally, right after the base is telling you not to cave, right after you see a type of populist energy, right after you have even freaking Mickey Sherrill, the centrist, telling you not to cave. Why did they cave? And my take on it is centrist is going to centrist, and they caved because they wanted to placate their donors. They realized there would be no cost to them, and they think that they will have friends like Thune and others who will honor their commitment to, inshallah, extend the government subsidies, because of course they will, because it's not like, oh yeah, the Trump administration has ordered states to pause paying full SNAP benefits, literally on the front page of the Washington Post. Senate takes key vote toward ending government shutdown. Second headline, Trump administration orders states to pause paying full SNAP benefits. Third headline, more than 10,000 flights delayed in worst day of disruption since shutdown. Sean Duffy warns flights will trickle and it'll get worse. Allison, take it away. Rip apart my thesis or my predictions or my analysis.
Waj, I cannot. And I will not, because I've been asking all day. I wonder if the airlines, because I started noticing Duffy and I started seeing all the headlines come up through the corporate media about travel canceled and what are people going to do for the holidays? Are they going to buy their gifts? Are they going to go out to the major retailers and buy all their gifts and do all the travel? And I was like, I'm so glad you looked up the Open Secrets airline pack stuff. My other concern with the airlines is completely separate and has to do with their weird company that they all kind of own together that hands over all of our flight and travel information to DHS, the Department of Homeland Security, which also really bothers me about these major airlines. But I was like, what? I wonder. I mean, I'm sure you saw me post on Blue Sky. Like, I really am interested to know what the airline lobby was up to today. So thank you for looking that up on Open Secrets. It makes complete and total sense. What's going to be interesting to see? And first, and that out of the way. Second of all, I can't believe they did this to us after what we did on Tuesday. And so I am actually really, really good because I have PTSD at compartmentalizing and dissociating, and I am trying to dissociate my joy from last Tuesday from these 8 assholes and whoever else was in on this, because I'm sure there were other senators that, there were senators that certainly wanted to vote no on this, like a Van Hollen or a Chris Murphy or a Senator Warren or a Bernie Sanders. But I'm sure there were some that were like, allowed to vote no on this because we had Rand Paul and they only needed 8 Democrats to get this to go through. So I don't know which ones those are, and I hope we find out which ones were allowed to vote no. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I
Like as
know. I know
part of
exactly. Just like with Schumer. Yeah. So what I said, Allison, was okay. If Schumer wants us to believe that he had nothing to do with this because he voted no, and then these 8 went behind his back, then you are weak and useless and need to launch yourself into the
yeah,
sun.
forget that. Yeet, as my friend Joel says, yeet into the sun. Because I was thinking about Nancy Pelosi today, and love her or hate her, I mean, she trades more stock on Congress than like anybody I know. But she got votes. She whipped the caucus. She never went into something not knowing where they were going to be, and she never took the Dem caucus into something unsure about how it would turn out. And if you're incapable of doing that in the Senate as the party minority leader, then we need a new minority leader. We need a new Dem caucus leader in the Senate. And I've been saying that for a long time now, but whether it's Van Hollen or Murphy or somebody like that, somebody who's willing to fight. So, but I've been trying to desperately dissociate what happened on Tuesday with what they did to us tonight, because what we voted for on Tuesday, what we came out for at No Kings and No Kings 2 and Hands Off, and what we voted for on Tuesday was for people and propositions that are fight. They're fighting. Prop 50 is a fight. The gun legislation, red flag laws, and voting rights propositions in Maine, that's a fight. That what happened in Virginia, they've elected people that would fight for them. Tim Kaine, not so much. And Mamdani, for example, it's like a fight. It's like a people power over money fight. We showed them in Wisconsin earlier this year. We held the 3 Pennsylvania seats, Supreme Court seats, because we know that that's going to come up when the Republicans try to sue over elections every time, like they try to do, or stop votes from being counted. Those were fighting votes for fighters and fighty things, not what these folks just did. So I don't consider what we did for these kinds of Democrats. Does that make sense?
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. And I think it makes perfect sense. And what I was, right before you jumped on, the reason why I made the case for hold the line is just knowing how politicians work. And I give a quick example. After Dems lost, they decided to find the new liberal Joe Rogan. They spent $20 million. The universe gave him Mamdani, and the same establishment refuses to endorse him, and threw everything and Bill Clinton and Clyburn against him and for Cuomo. Then,
Yeah, and it's like, show us the way, and then you drop a 50-pound bag of bricks on him, and it completely misses.
and then
Like,
also, Lake and Riley Act. Let's help them go against undocumented immigrants that could not have passed without Democrats. Gavin Newsom. Let me invite Charlie Kirk and Steve Bannon on my podcast and agree with them. And then what does the base do? Pressure, pressure, pressure. And the same establishment that said, we're all in for Israel and Netanyahu. Okay. I guess maybe we'll be against him, kinda. Chuck Schumer hugged Netanyahu in July. There were also some of these centrists who were there hugging Benjamin Netanyahu, right? So tell me how divorced you are from your base, because they don't want reformation. They want restoration. They want to go back to the I'll slap your back, you slap my back. We're all buddies and friends. We'll have our bourbon. I don't drink. I'm assuming they drink bourbon. I do not think they're built for this fight. I do not think they're made for this moment. And I think they'll do everything in their power to try to go back to pre-Trump ways, right? I get paid. All of them are millionaires. All 8 are millionaires. They've all made money. All of them can retire. All of them have feathered their nest. 2 of them are retiring. None of them are up for re-election. And it reminds me, Allison, I remember you and I talked about this. This is not the first time. The first CR, remember the Democrats held? The House held? They said, all right, don't give him the votes. Don't give him the votes. Chuck Schumer's like, we're not going to give him the votes. And you all remember the next day he did a complete 180, threw them all under the bus, and said, we have to be responsible. And then you and I remember said, I guarantee you some of these New York donors, especially in Wall Street, said, hey, stocks are hurting. Remember that the stocks went down, things were bad, and I'm sure they put the pressure. So Schumer whipped up enough votes, gave cover to a few others. And I think 10 came on, and everyone else is like, "Holy shit, man, you caved!" And no, this was the responsible thing to do. And what did Donald Trump say? He goes, "You're an idiot. I'm going to get rid of Department of Education, Doge, take what you want, Palantir, get all the data, USAID, you're gone, Russell Vought. Now I all of a sudden remember you, Project 2025 that I ran away from. Nope, I'm going to bear hug it. Here's an AI video of us being Grim Reapers. Ha ha ha." And apparently everyone's now telling me in the chat, Trump just pardoned people like 5 minutes ago.
Oh, yeah, but that's really funny. And we'll talk about that in a second. Yeah, well, we remember last March, one of the agreements was that, oh, hey, Democrats, if you vote for our continuing resolution, we'll vote on a separate bill to fund the $1.1 billion for DC that we just stripped out. And they were like, oh, great. And they did, but then Mike Johnson never took it up in the House. So we're still at that $1.1 billion deficit. That's the exact same thing that's going to happen here with the promise to vote on Affordable Care Act subsidies. Although that is really going to hurt more people than not just funding DC, but, by not extending the Affordable Care Act tax credits, it's going to hurt way more millions of Americans. Hurting anyone is wrong and stupid. But that's the exact same scenario that we were in March, and that's why we wanted to hold them out. And they held out for 40 days. And yesterday, I almost put out a post saying we really should do a hat tip for the Democrats for not caving. Just then I was like, I'm gonna wait until they, to make sure that they don't. But that's why we have to, when we push Dems to do better, and then they do, that's great. And if they don't, and they continue to do shit like that, we need to primary their asses. And if they're retiring, I mean, all of these people, these 8, are either retiring or not running again until 2028 or 2030. Hoping we'll forget. But I'm certainly not going to forget. Now, the pardons thing is Ed Martin, the Wackadagpa, which is, I forget what it stands for now. He's got 3 titles, but he's the Deputy Associate Attorney General, the pardon attorney, and I forget what the WACA part is, but he's, the weaponization czar, Associate Deputy Attorney General, and pardon attorney. That he's serving in those 3 roles. So they've pardoned all of the electors, the fake electors, and
Rudy
like
Giuliani.
Eastman and Epstein and Rudy and stuff. The thing is that they were never charged with federal crimes. They've never been charged with federal crimes.
That's why the Rudy thing was weird. Yeah.
Those are state crimes. Then you can't pardon those. And even if we win in 2028 and put in a badass attorney general they cannot bring charges against these newly pardoned people anyway, because the statute of limitations is way expired. So the only thing I can think of is that this is a signal to future election criminals to say, you'll get a pardon if you help me stay in the White House in 2028, running on a 3rd term, which is illegal, or, if Eastman writes up a new memo instead of the coup memo that he wrote up in 2020, he writes up a memo about how to run for a 3rd term and, whatever. Maybe he's just signaling to future election criminals that he'll pardon them as well. That's all I can think that this serves. I don't know if he's smart enough to think that way, but these pardons are not worth the paper they're written on.
Performative pardons that signal to his base that probably doesn't understand how pardons work, that I got your back. And like you said, signals to his allies, I got you. You help me, I help you. That's what's going to happen. Oh, yeah, by the way, German far-right activist seeks asylum in U.S. as Trump ties deepen. A supporter of the nationalist AfD party in Germany, which is also pro-Hitler, said she's being persecuted in Germany for her political views. And as you all know, that he's lowered the cap to a historic low of 7,500 refugees, overwhelmingly for white refugees from South Africa who aren't persecuted and members of the far right. Voila. So this is who these 8 centrist Democrats feel like they can negotiate with, and also, as we were saying, that Trump, in defiance of 2 judges, refuses not even to partially fund SNAP, and they have the money for it, but refuses to outright pay for SNAP, which is they have the money for it, but instead he'll give $40 billion to Milei, throw a Roaring Twenties party, spend $300 million on a ballroom, which, by the way, is funded by all the oligarchs and the billionaires, but won't help give food to Americans because that's how cruel they are. And if they won't even fund SNAP, which they have the money for and have been ordered by judges to do it, of course, Allison, they will, of course, hold a vote to extend Obamacare subsidies. Of course they will.
But the Senate might do it, and and it might actually pass because Republicans know 59% of Republicans want these extended, 79% of Americans. But the House, I don't think, is going to take it up. But and then that goes on them for not extending the Affordable Care Act subsidies. But the First Circuit did just come back and rule against Donald Trump on the SNAP thing, on the merits of a more permanent stay. Remember how Ketanji Brown Jackson took it for herself, didn't let her oligarch shithead friends on the Supreme Court take it from her, and she decided to put a very brief administrative stay, urged the First Circuit to hurry up. Boy, they did. They just came back with that ruling, and now it's her stay is good for 48 hours, so the Supreme Court, the rest of them, would have to dive in and stop it. Now, SNAP is included in this deal that was just cut. I mean, it's, if you reopen the government, but if that ends up taking longer than a few days, if you can get SNAP out through Ketanji Brown Jackson's way sooner, then excellent. The rest of the Supreme Court might see it as a moot point right now and just kill the whole thing and say, we don't have to decide on this because the government's going to be opening up. So I'm not quite sure which would come first, but I'm very glad that she did what she did, because if we were still not caving in and not allowing the government to open without the Affordable Care Act subsidies in the bill, then SNAP would be able to go out a lot sooner, or the Supreme Court would have to show its whole ass again, which I wouldn't put past them. But I mean, here we are. We're in this place now where we've got capitulating Democrats. It just feels like they're shitting all over everything we've done for the last 9 months. Do you know what I mean?
It's because they don't. The Democratic establishment, in my humble opinion, based on everything I've seen, this is the evidence of my eyes and ears, loads their base. They do not want this base. They want the oligarchs. They want white centrists. They hate the fact there was people of color who gave these centrists double-digit victories. They hate the fact that Mamdani is the most exciting thing since Obama for their party. They hate the fact that Bernie and AOC's fighting the oligarchy tour and messaging works. That goes against their entire reason of being. They've been in this game for so long. They are so tethered to the corporate teat and so tethered to the establishment that, folks, I just want to remind you, they would rather side with disgraced sexual predator Andrew Cuomo than Mamdani. I'm not making this up. I know we have United States of amnesia. Just look at the past 2 weeks. They went all in with the Islamophobia. They had Bill Clinton come out for Cuomo. We had Clyburn come out for Cuomo. They had Lawrence Summers come out for Cuomo. They had, who's that billionaire? Bloomberg spent millions, and he still lost by double digits. And what I said is they would rather burn everything down, including their own party, than to actually have reformation, because, to quote George Carlin, it's a big club and you ain't in it. And we're seeing
Don't they have enough money, though? Like, when is enough money
More.
enough money?
More.
I mean, now we've got Elon Musk getting $1 trillion pay package. And add that to the pile of Gatsby party, and and now we're starting to be able to hone in on which Democrats are the capitalists. Do you know what I mean? Like we'll throw you and everything you want under the bus for some airline lobby money. And what is it, just going straight into their pocket? If they're not running for re-election, does it go to like some Dem centrist pack somewhere? Like, we need to get to the bottom of this, because we need to know who to carve out of this party. We need to know who. We need to know who we can push and who will change, and we need to know who won't and who is just for sale, so we can carve them out of this, because we have such a huge opportunity after Tuesday's turnout and the turnout at No Kings. We have such a huge opportunity to show them who we are in these upcoming primaries in 2026. Because, I mean, you know me, I will vote for the progressive candidate in the primary, and then I will generally vote for whoever the Democrat is that wins.
Absolutely.
And I think pretty much everybody does that, whether they like it or not. I think that's generally the way to go. But if we really take all that energy, all of our No Kings energy, all of our 2025 election energy, and put it into these primaries, all of our Mamdani energy, all of our, we want to change the way this party looks, and we want to carve out the people who will sell us out for $1, then we can make the party that we want and have the government that we want. And it won't happen all in one election cycle, right? It might take a few, because some people aren't up for election until 2028 or 2030. But that's up to us, right? And the big money, we also know from elections like Mamdani and everything that happened on Tuesday, and from the Prop 50 election and from the Wisconsin Supreme Court elections, that no matter how much these corporatists come in and dump millions of dollars into these elections, that we actually are more powerful than that. And I
Yep.
feel like we haven't known that for a long time. I feel like we've just started to prove that to ourselves with these 2025 elections. Starting with Wisconsin and seeing what we did in Florida 1 and Florida 6, even though we didn't win them, and seeing how, all these propositions and ballot measures for reproductive rights and things like that. And especially with Prop 50 and just millions and millions of dollars coming in to fight those things. And we've shown that when we show up and when we show out, we can beat that money. And that's what we can do in 2026 to help start reforming this party and get the government that we want and the government we deserve, because now we know we have the power to do it. I think that's really important, going to understanding that in 2026.
To quote Rage Against the Machine, anger is a gift, and it can be used very well and wisely. And I remember in 2014, right here in Virginia, folks, this is for the old heads, the Republican establishment promoted Eric Cantor and Kevin Johnson and Paul Ryan. They were the new faces of this corporate Republican Party, right? But the Republican base said, no, you don't represent us because we're all a bunch of racist extremists and we're part of the Tea Party and we hate the fact that a black man won, and we're gearing up for a Sarah Palin and a Steve Bannon and a Donald Trump. So in this race in Virginia 2014, where Eric Cantor was the House Majority Leader, he got destroyed in a surprising upset by David Bratt. You all remember that? Dave Bratt, an outsider, came in, and that became officially the Tea Party. Well, not officially, but kind of really signaled, oh, shit, the Tea Party is the future. And then Donald Trump, a year later, is like, I'm going to run for president, right? I think I've been using this word, and I feel very strong about it, a culling. We need to cull and chip away at all this fat and loose ends and these cancerous tumors. You need to chip away, chip away, chip away, because so much is at stake. You wish you could do in one election cycle. It'll probably take a couple, but I think
Yeah,
they need
and
to.
we can do that. And we need to understand that it's going to take a long time and it's not going to go as fast as we want it to go. And that there are going to be some primaries where the centrist wins because it's a purple state or whatever. And that's just that's just how it is in that particular state or that particular district right now. We can do everything that we can. But I feel like because we're so energized and because this regime is so shitty, we have a massive opportunity to mobilize and do it the right way, or at least more than we were able to do it in 2018. And we did really well in 2018 with progressive and young candidates, and better than what we did in 2020. Clearly, obviously, better than we did in 2022. More people turned out to vote for Prop 50 in California than turned out in the 2022 midterms in California.
65-35.
That's how riled up. More human beings voted in this election, Prop 50, for that one single thing than came out in 2022. And that's the kind of having that energy and those numbers against this shitty regime, I think really, like I said, gives us an opportunity to do exactly what you're talking about, which is to get rid of some of these folks we don't. I hope AOC runs for Senate in New York.
She'll win.
She'll
win. I think I completely agree with you, and you have every right to be pissed, and which is why I'm saying anger is a gift, is now you've finally woken up. What more do you need to see? This is not the path forward. They're not built for this fight. They're not made for this moment. It's all a big club. They're in it. And that club doesn't include us. They will throw us under the bus for themselves. They want more, more, more. They want to go back to the way things were. They're against reformation. They're all about restoration. Even Kathy Hochul, when she was asked last week, to go against the oligarchy and the industrialists, she goes, I won't be pressured. Meh. Even Schumer, even Jeffries, they're not made for this moment, folks. But the people have spoken. 7 million people came out, no King's rally. And despite the entirety of the establishment, including Democrats, saying, shut up and vote for Cuomo, the people said, F you, go F yourself. We're going to go for a vote for Mamdani. 2 million people came out, the largest number since 1969. Folks, it's a huge win. I want to stick on this hopeful note for a second, because eyes wide open, now you see it. If for those of you who had your hand in the sand, you see it now. This is how they're going to be. They will burn down Mamdani and progressives in order to bear hug Chet and corporate Chad. All right. But it didn't matter. Even though they threw Bill Clinton and billionaires at against Mamdani, New Yorkers in a multiracial coalition came out and said, F you. And Mamdani won. Prop 50 won 65-35. Right. Cheryl won. Spangenberger won. I guarantee you, I'm here in Virginia. People said the centrist won. I guarantee you, if a progressive ran instead of, say, a Spangenberger, there'd be even more energy. That progressive would have won by double-digit points. Now, people say, watch, prove it. I've been following this races in Virginia, right? Remember, Allison, I said, I bet you Jay Jones wins, even though he was underwater. Jay Jones versus Miaris, because Jay Jones, for those who don't follow Virginia politics, sent a stupid text as a state legislator, and then because of that text, Republicans poured really effective money in campaigning on it. And then Miaris was up by 3 points. It was Miaris to win. Jay Jones ends up winning by what, 4 points? Like a huge 7-point swing, right? I guarantee you, had they run progressives, people were so pissed. A, they still would have won with the same numbers. B, people would have been even more energized. If not a progressive, but a fighter, like someone who's against the oligarchy and actually listens to the people. So now we know, folks. You now just point out all of the weak, feckless centrists, corporatists, the people who are against the people. You just mark them, and keep those receipts in your brain. And then when it comes to 2026, 2028, you primary the shit out of them. You cull. Keep culling, and make this party. And we have to make this party, the Democratic Party, our party. It's the only opposition party, right? And look, they are shifting. A majority of Democrats, for the first time in my lifetime, voted to stop sending aid to Israel. I would have weapons. In my life, I never thought this would happen. America now is pro-Palestinian. It's a 49-point shift. Seth Moulton openly says, I'm not going to take money from AIPAC. What? Like, this is wild, folks. So they're responding. They realize, oh, shit, if I want to change. The old guard doesn't. F them. All right, now we know where you are, you ate. You threw us under the bus, and you're done. This is your last ride. Enjoy it. Make some more money for yourself. And then amble off into uselessness with your privileged feathered nest. And any Democrat who wants to run or has a national political ambitions, if you give us a soft milquetoast complicity, your ass is done. We want fighters. And I feel like AOC runs for Senate. I think she's going to. I think clearly she'd win if she runs for Senate. And all these other Democrats, they're all tools. Change, shift up. Ro Khanna shifting up and changing, becoming more progressive. Gavin Newsom, the man who agreed with Charlie Kirk and Steve Bannon, is now flip-flopping. I don't trust him. He's not my candidate. Use him, though. Yeah. He's a tool. I'll use him. So I think this is where we go, folks, to have some hope is we have the people. And I think this is good because now people see clearly these centrist, useless pieces. You can't be centrist against fascism. You can't be centrist against genocide. You just can't. You can't. You either fight or you're complicit. And I think these people, you see the rage that's happening right now online. I'm very curious to see the polls tomorrow. I think this is a good rage. I want people to wake up and see them for who they are. All right, mother effer, I see you. I'm going to remember this shit. I'm not going to forget. You think I'm going to? That's what they think. They think, oh, people forget. I just read an analysis. They're thinking by midterms, no one's going to care. I don't think so, Allison. I think they're misreading people's righteous rage. Your take.
Oh, yeah. We've had this, but we've been doing this for 9 months now. Well, I don't know what makes them think we'll forget by next year. This is the whole backing of it. And, you talk about these 8 Democrats and the super capitalists and people who take money from AIPAC being like, you're not in the club. It's a big club and you're not in it. What we showed them Tuesday is it's actually our club.
That's right.
And we get to decide who's in it. That's what we showed them on Tuesday, and that's why I'm not letting them take away my good feelings about Tuesday, because it's about this. It's about exactly this. You know what I'm saying? So I look forward to continuing what we've built, what we did on Tuesday, moving forward, because if we continue what we're doing, then people like these 8 Democrats are no longer going to be in office.
Can I ask you a final question? Everyone says, well, the good news is Adelita Grijalva, who friggin' won 6 weeks ago, still hasn't been sworn in. Progressive Democrat from Arizona who had vowed to be the 218th vote to release for the House to release the Epstein files. They said, well, now Mike Johnson will be forced to swear her in. And I say, he'll find a way to Mike Johnson out of it.
I asked tonight on Blue Sky, I was like, so now what is Mike Johnson's excuse going to be? And there were some really good answers. Some folks were like, I'll tell you my favorite. That happened. But, a lot of people are like, well, we just won't open until January. We don't need to open the government until January. Now, they actually have to come in and vote on what the Senate passed, because it's different from what the House passed, because it's got that additional, the Tim Kaine stuff, like back pay for federal workers, reinstating furloughed workers, and, RIFs and stuff like that. It's a different bill than the CR that the House passed is. Which is so dumb, because the whole thing that was kind of stopping them from doing the ACA was because it would have to go back to the House, which is why I just don't understand why these Democrats caved without putting the ACA stuff in there. So it's just a cluster. But you know what? Let me, while you answer your own question here about what you think his excuse is going to be, I'll look for my favorite one, and I'll tell you what I think he might actually try to pull.
I mean, look, these people are shameless. They lied. They don't care. Why would Mike Johnson allow a vote on the release of the Epstein files, which folks, there was reporting, and Michael Wolff told me that. Well, for those who know, oh, by the way, Michael's joining me tomorrow at 1 p.m. Michael Wolff is joining me at 1 p.m. to talk about his lawsuit and about the Epstein files. So tune in. But Michael said that he has seen photos that Jeffrey Epstein showed him of young girls sitting on Donald Trump's lap, and then he said a second photo that he saw were young girls laughing and pointing at Donald Trump's wet crotch. A reporting came out a couple of days ago that what Michael said is true, but there are even worse photos, and that those photos and that documents, if they come out, will be just the house of cards will fall. So all of this is to say, I'm not putting it past Mike Johnson to straight up, like, Allison, he'll just say no. Like, I don't even know. Like, I can't think shamelessly because I'm not like him, but like, I just think he'll be like, if we release it, people, it'll be really disturbing for people, and it'll be like pornographic. And this is a white Christian nationalist country. We should be against pornography.
Well, first of all, I reported on this a little bit on the breakdown on Midas earlier today, which I'm going to be sharing on MuellerSheWrote.com here soon. Uh, but the big problem is, even if the House votes and they get the discharge petition, and they say release the files, it's got to go to the Senate.
Right.
Then it's got to be signed by the president. And even if it's just a resolution, and they send it to the DOJ and say, we demand the files, the DOJ is not going to release the files that we want, and at least not in the way that we want them. So that's not going to really make the files come out. It's just going to put people on the record. And what's really scaring the Republicans right now, and I talked about this because I actually did this reporting. I broke some of this reporting this past summer. That were there not only 1,000 FBI people on this, there were actually more than that in 4 units across 2 agencies that had eyes on these, and they were completely unrestricted to everybody in that unit, because they didn't add any permissions because they were in such a hurry. And so the problem that Republicans in Congress have, that what's scaring them right now, is that all their friends in the DOJ and FBI that have seen these files and have told the Republicans and the Democrats in Congress what's in these files. And yes, it's worse than what we have previously known. I talked to some sources who reviewed the files, but it's not necessarily that they're going to vote to release them. It's that 1,000+ people have seen them. There's 1,000 points at least of leak possibilities. That's what's scaring the crap out of the Republicans. And that's why 100 of them at least will probably vote yes on the discharge petition after the 218 signature goes on it. No one else is going to sign it because no one wants to have to vote yes unless they're forced to vote yes on it. That would be dumb of them to do. So that's kind of where that whole thing is. But the best excuse so far that I got, and this is actually not a bad one, he'll say, hey, look, well, tons of people said, I don't know what that is. I haven't heard about it. I'm not sure what you're talking about, because that's his go-to answer for everything. But somebody actually said that he'll say, well, Arizona filed a lawsuit and we have to let that play out in court.
Okay. Okay. That's fair. That's fair. And you know what? Allison didn't do great reporting on that, like she always does. They're so stupid that Excel sheet was shared. And also, I want to remind you all that Project Veritas. Oh, the right-wing nutty MAGA conspiracy theorist had a reporter. Remember this? Who went on a hinge date with a DOJ official, and he thought he was on a hinge date, and she was recording him, and he straight up said, "Oh yeah, Jonathan says Waj and Allison are terrible capitalists, so throw them a bone or two. Thank you. Do you two sleep? Allison and I do not. I literally dragged her out of bed, I think, a couple of days ago. I think, wasn't I? She was like,
you dragged me out of bed tonight, too. I was in bed watching dog grooming videos.
yeah. And she's like, no, okay.
That's how I cope with rage. Is I watch dog grooming videos.
Yeah, but remember that hinge date where the DOJ guy openly said, yeah, they don't want this out? He literally said on a hinge date, this is the type of people that they have. He openly admitted on a hinge date, probably to score with this girl who was actually a Project Veritas reporter. And people kind of casually forget that. Dan Bongino has gone quiet. Remember Pam Bondi said she has the files, then she went quiet. Remember Kash Patel's like, there's nothing to see here, guys. Everything is fine. And then remember CBS reported that 70 photos from the Epstein murder / suicide, whatever, showed complete mismanagement. Like evidence was moved, people weren't interviewed. That was just a couple of weeks ago. This is the biggest cover-up, in my opinion, that we've seen.
The body was moved. The body was moved before and it took the FBI 9 hours to get there.
He's lying, and the Wall Street Journal said that Pam Bondi told him about it in April, which means he's been lying ever since. We still don't know why. Ghislaine Maxwell got transferred to Club Fed. Who ordered her to get that sweetheart deal, despite her status as a sexual? What is it? What was her status?
Sex offender. Her public safety factor. Sex offender was waived.
Yeah, who did that? Like, so, folks. Eventually, this is going to come out to answer it. So, going back to what we said, I think he will use any excuse not to swear her in or release the files. That's just me, because if I know what's in those files from what we know and what you know, Allison, and what we've been told is in it, why even risk that being in the news, Allison? That's what I would say. Allison, it is 1:30 Eastern time AM. Thank you all for joining us. Allison is joining me at 10:30 LA time, still late. I do not sleep. I wanted to relax, but I was just so I had a righteous rage, and then I felt like channeling it.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to vent. I'm so pissed. I was just yelling, not at my cats, but like with them. Like we were both all sitting there watching the C-SPAN. Like, what the fuck, so it was nice to be angry with a bunch of humans and 1,500 of you. Thank you
and
for
also
giving me the opportunity. I love what Noel Castler said. He said it must be terrible to be like a paid Dem, mouthpiece, because trying to have to defend what's happening tonight. It's like, oh my God. Now I haven't seen anybody defending it.
I know a few. I'm waiting to see their spin tomorrow. I know a few. They don't admit it, but I know they're on the dole. It's going to be tough. Let's see. I'm very curious to see how they spin it. Oh, I saw one spin. Chuck Schumer didn't vote for it. That was one spin.
I have been saying that Chuck Schumer didn't vote for it, but it comes with the caveat that he is in charge of the caucus, and if he's unable to whip the caucus, then he shouldn't be the leader. And also, was he one of the ones that was allowed to vote no? So I don't know. We have to figure that out. That's what we have to figure out. But
on a positive note, to end on a positive note, like I said, a great quote from Rage Against the Machine: "Anger is a gift. Anger by itself is destructive, but anger is powerful emotion that can be used towards action, especially if it's paired with love and justice." And I think, I want you all to tap in to the collective spirit of joy we saw on Tuesday with the Blue Tsunami, and even with Mamdani's win, historic win, and then also the 7 million that came out for No Kings, and use this. Well, now we know they are feckless, they are useless. It's all a big
It's our
club,
club.
but it's our
It's
club,
our club.
and we're going to get rid of you. We're going to cull you. If it takes 2, 3, 4 elections, we're going to chisel you away. We're going to chisel you away. It's done. It's done. I don't think they. I know they underestimate the rage. I know they don't see it. I know they don't, because they're in their little bubbles. But folks, I've been traveling around the country. We have this opportunity to talk to all of you, the 1500. And folks, the average Joes, average Jose's, average Janes, they're pissed. They want reformation. They want change. And inshallah, if these people can't deliver it, we're going to get rid of them. Politicians are tools. You use them, and once they become dull, you'll replace them with a better tool. So we're going to replace it. You 8 who voted today, we're not going to forget. And the others who went there and, use these 8 for cover, we're going to get rid of you too, because you're going to out yourself. You're going to out
Yep.
yourself sooner than later. Allison, shamelessly promote yourself. I got you out of bed, so you should be rewarded somehow.
I would just love it if everyone subscribed to MullerSheWrote.com, to my Substack, and if everybody could check out the breakdown that I did on Midas today. I've posted links on my Blue Sky feed and my Facebook. I hate Facebook, but it's there if that's if you need to find it. So and I just appreciate you, Waj, giving me. I just love the fact that at any time of the night, it could be like, "Waj, let's yell, yeah," and then we could get on and talk and
It's
vent our
terrible.
righteous anger.
Yeah, we
Uh,
we label each other's worst tendencies, but for a greater good. I
for
do feel
greater good. So thank
I've got
you. And if you have any shekels, please throw them Waj's way, because as he always says, he's a terrible capitalist. Everything he does is free, and so support for him and independent media is crucial, especially at this time when all of the levers of communication in the corporate media belong to the corporatists.
including BBC,
And
folks, including BBC. You saw the news about BBC bending the knee?
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
not
and
I'll say
they're going to try to spin this, right? And say, no, because I don't know, the airline lobbyists probably kicked them a bunch of money too. I don't know, but
it's because the right wing now runs it, and BBC's top leaders resigned over Trump's speech editing controversy. And I knew this was coming real quick on Tuesday.
oh yeah.
On Wednesday, when I was at the stuck in SFO airport lounge, BBC World called me, and I don't know if I shared this with you. We're talking about Mamdani's win. I was talking to 2 other Muslim Americans, and I said, speaking about Islamophobia, and I said, George W. Bush, even though he had the disastrous administration and failed the war on terror, and the host, first time this happened, interrupted me and said, "Well, some people liked his policies." I'm like, "Yeah." No. And I was talking about Dick Cheney dying also, right? And then I said this, Donald Trump is a criminal, sexual assaulter who incited a violent insurrection. And then he interrupted me again and said, "Well, those are just allegations." And I said, "No, those are all facts." And that's when I realized this is not the BBC that I used to interview and talk to. And now today, folks, news, BBC's top leaders resign over Trump's speech editing controversy. Oh, the same reason why Trump sued CBS, and CBS then bribed him for $60 million. So Nepo baby David Ellison and his insane billionaire pro friggin' Israel right wing hack father Larry Ellison could gobble up CBS, Paramount, TikTok, and now they're going after Warner Brothers Discovery. So this is where it's at, folks. Substack's where it's at. Allison Gill's where it's at. The breakdown, Daily Beans, her videos on Midas got like 1 million. How many did you get? Like 100,000, 500,000?
The last few ones have been getting 1 million almost.
That's huge. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's like more. That's 3 times more than MSNBC, folks. This is where it's at. People, and I think even with the media, the fact that Allison, a one-woman shop, is getting 1 million more so than the entire networks, people are done. And my dad, of all people, used to watch MSNBC all the time. My dad said, "I can't. I'm done." Dude, my parents are like straight up radicals now. It's hilarious to listen to them. I should have them on one day. You will enjoy
That'd
their
be
rant.
great.
Yeah, my mom is like, "Look at these weak men. Like, why can't they fight?" And my dad's like, "You don't even want to hear what my dad said about the oligarchy." I'm like, "Please never say this publicly." He goes, "But this is what should happen to them." I'm like, Ixnay on the comments A of what yeah, private dad. Public, no. Everyone, thank you. This is Left Hook. This is a breakdown with Allison. We're terrible capitalists. Everything's for free, no paywalls. If you can't give money, I get it. Times are tough. At least subscribe. And there's 1,600 people watching. We've been doing the breakdown of today's just terrible, no good, horrible caving by these 8 centrist Democrats. But we gave our examples, theories as to why cat, always a cat. Oh, pay for the cat. Whenever we bring on cat, we get so many hearts and likes. And tell us if you agree with us or not. This will be up on my Substack and Allison's Substack in about 30 minutes. Thank you all. Oh, tomorrow I have Michael Wolff talking about his lawsuit and the Epstein files at 1 p.m. And I have Stuart Stevens at 2 p.m. talking about the fecklessness of Democratic leadership and the extremism of the GOP. Always great conversation with Stuart, who always rails against the party he helped create. And unlike a lot of others, he takes full credit for being misled and now spending the rest of his life trying his best to raise the Republican Party to the ground. That'll be at 2 p.m. Thank you all. Thanks, Allison. Go sleep.
You too. Bye, everybody.